Chapter 923. When the other two women heard this, the both of them immediately rushed forward and the three of them kept punching and kicking Elaine together. Their fists and kicks greeted Elaine repeatedly and Elaine could not stop herself from crying out in pain. In fact, these three people were sent here by Isaac to scare Elaine and teach her a lesson. He wanted Elaine to believe that she was in big trouble. This way, she would not dare to cause any trouble for Alex when she was finally released from the detention center. At this time, Elaine was rolling on the ground in pain after getting beaten up for a long time. She was screaming and begging for mercy endlessly. The other inmates were still running at this time, but they stopped in their tracks as they stared at Elaine and the group of girls in shock when they heard Elaine's screams. Although Brabus also played a part in beating Elaine, she was never as cruel as the three other inmates. It felt as though they were trying to kill Elaine. It was obvious that these three people were no ordinary people. "Oh, she's so pitiful. She's in a truly miserable state," Brabus could not help but sighed as she said, "This Elaine is really getting beating after beating. I am actually starting to sympathize with her a little." When Lady Richards saw Elaine getting beaten up so badly, she laughed triumphantly before she started cheering, "That's fantastic. Beat that shrewd woman to death. Beat her up so badly so that she can no longer speak with her vicious mouth." Olivia also started clapping her hands vigorously and she smiled as she said, "Hit her. Hit her harder. Punch her in the face and smash her broken face." At this time, the scar-faced woman saw that Elaine was already beaten half to death and she hurriedly said, "Okay, let's keep her alive. Otherwise, if we killed her right now, we will not be able to continue beating her up for the next 20 years. Then, how are we going to vent our anger and frustrations then?" The other two inmates stopped beating Elaine. Elaine had a badly battered face. She collapsed on the ground as she continued crying out in pain. She felt that she was gasping frantically for air as she tried to breathe. The scar-faced woman walked in front of Elaine before she said coldly, "Let me tell you. Your good days are far from here. This is the end result of your own actions. Just wait and see. You will definitely rather be dead than alive." Elaine was so scared that she could only burst into tears. The ordeal and sufferings that Alex's black card had brought upon her were even more tragic than the sufferings that the Buddhist monk suffered in the scriptures. Ever since she stole the black card, she did not only get beaten, but she was also left hungry and she was starving. When she was already starving, she had to endure the cold. When she was already feeling so cold, she had to endure a cold shower. When she was already freezing because of the bucket of cold water that was poured over her, she was also forced to sleep in the toilet. This was simply a tragedy. When the scar-faced woman saw Elaine lying on the ground and crying miserably, she kicked her before she snorted coldly, "Cry! Cry! If you continue crying, I will break all of your teeth." Elaine closed her mouth immediately and she did not dare to make a single sound or squeak anymore. She had already lost her 2 front teeth and 1 posterior molar. If the other party really broke her jaw and made her lose all of her teeth, then how would she continue living the rest of her life? When the scar-faced woman saw that Elaine was not making any more noise, she sneered before she said, "Okay, you can get out of here now." Elaine was relieved. Although she could not even stand up anymore because of the beating that she had endured, she started crawling away as fast as she could because she wanted to get as far away from the 3 women as she possibly could. After beating Elaine up, the 3 women also turned around and left immediately. At this time, 2 prison guards suddenly appeared and asked Brabus to help to bring Elaine back to their cell. Although Brabus absolutely hated Elaine, she also felt a little sympathy and compassion for her after seeing her get beaten up so badly. Since she was physically strong, Brabus helped Elaine up before she brought her back to their cell. At this time, the other inmates followed closely behind them and each of them had their own thoughts about the situation.